After thinking about this for a bit, I decided that I am going to cut this into two pieces whenever I put it back in. Whether I repair this one and use it or buy a new one, I'm still going to cut it. It's just too hard to take out, and you can't get to the lower radiator hose without getting the right side of that out. So what I will do is, right in the middle, top and bottom, I'll just slit it. And if this piece here is not enough to tie it together solidly, then what I'll do is I'll make a connector plate to connect it top and bottom. But I'm pretty sure that that piece will tie it together well enough so that it's not a problem. Just a question of whether I can make a clean enough cut on it so that it looks good without a plate on it to hide the cut. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the drain plug on the radiator again, just in case when we took the thermostat housing on that there might have been some fluid that was held into the block by vacuum and it ran down, and we have a full radiator, at least partially full in the bottom. So I'm going to move the camera because it splashed pretty good the first time. Don't want it to splash on the camera. Well, there was definitely enough fluid in there to make it worthwhile taking that plug out again. It's still dripping a bit. There was probably at least a quart and a half in there. I'm going to let that drain, and then the next thing I'm going to tackle is the lower radiator hose. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm going to go after the lower radiator hose now. I have a 5/16 socket. Then I've got a reducer to go from 3/8 to 5/16, or I'm 3/8 to 1/4 inch drive on my very long extension. And I'm going to just reach up in there and use that like a screwdriver to get that clamp off. Once I get the clamp off, and by the way, if your radiator hose has never been changed, which is probably a slim possibility, but you may have a different type of a clamp on there. Now I'm going to take a small screwdriver, work my way underneath the place where the thing was clamped so that it breaks the bond between the hose and the fitting there where it goes in. Not too much access here, so it's pretty tough to get in there. We're going to do the best we can with that, and then try to spin it by hand. Looks like it might actually come. If I couldn't spin it by hand, I had my large channel locks all set to go there. And there's the spring that's in the lower radiator hose to keep it from collapsing. Now make sure if you replace it that you've got that. Okay. That was fairly easy. The next thing I'm going to do is there's transmission cooling lines here. I think these might have been replaced at one point. There's a rubber hose between where it connects to the radiator and where it goes to the line back to the transmission. So since I'm in here, those are definitely getting replaced. That's cheap insurance. So I'm just going to get a tray to catch some of the drips, and I'm going to just cut those. Well, I don't know whether these were original or not, but at least the rubber hoses were done right. You notice the flare on the end of the tube? That allows you to get a good grip on it when you put the clamp over this area, so that it's impossible for that hose to slide off. In the wintertime, when that transmission fluid gets a little bit thick from the cold, and that if you don't have those flares on the end, those hoses can slip off no matter how tight you clamp them, even with 2 clamps. I found that out the hard way. Left me stranded on the side of the road with no transmission fluid. Last thing to take off to get the radiator out is the hose that goes to the overflow bottle. Little clip there. Twist and pull, and that's off. The radiator still is attached, and what it is there's a foam, basically air dam that keeps the air from going around the radiator, that is very important for cooling. That is kind of stuck to the radiator, so we have to dislodge that before it will come out. Okay, got that free, and the radiator will lift out now. Okay, as you can see, I've got the radiator partially out. The reason why I'm showing that is because in order for it to come out, it has to be tipped up on the driver's side. That's the only way you're going to get clearance to get the bottom radiator hose connector past the A-frame. So you have to kind of bring the passenger side up a little bit, or if you have 2 people, you can probably bring the entire radiator up a bit and then tilt the driver's side up, and then once you get it to a certain point, it will actually go, and you'll be able to turn it vertical and it'll come out. I'm working by myself, so can't show you how to do that with 2 people. I did it by jiggling it a little bit at a time. Driver side up, passenger side up, driver side up to where the lower radiator hose connection would clear the A-frame, and then I can turn it vertical and it should come right out. Okay, the radiator looks to be in pretty good shape. It's got a couple bent fins, but all the tubes in it look pretty good. Those were probably dented by putting it in and out. It's really a tough, tight fit. I don't know how many of them I did taking them out, but I bet not all of them. I probably got some of them whenever it was put in.